You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster, Joe Benazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from Cboe. The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. Time to kick off the Thursday block of shows with everyone's favorite bi-weekly source for all things options related. Yup, it is time once again for the Option Block, what the cool kids call the old OB. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com. Hope you've been enjoying the glimpses we've been giving you, little snippets of video, including a full video show on Tuesday for the launch, the premiere of the European Market Brief. Thanks to all of you who took the time to check it out. Join us live, join us after the fact. We appreciate you all out there. Of course, if you want to get our stuff live outside of that one-off special event, you got to head over to the Pro, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. That'll get you access to all the stuff we're doing live, all the stuff we're doing, of course, for the Pro feed, like Pro Q&As and oddities, and just early access to a literal mountain. If it was stacked on top of itself, it would be a mountain, listeners, of content coming to you from the Options Industry Conference. Some of that, I think a lot of that has already hit the Pro feed. Going to start trickling out to the rest of the network sometime in the near future. Keep an eye out for that. Remember, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to get all of that. Of course, giveaways, all sorts of fun. We're already halfway through May, already halfway to giving away the May Pro Trading Crate. You folks are cleaning me out. But you know what? We like you, so it's okay. And let's see who we like on the show today. First, out to the hinterlands of St. Charles we go, where we are joined once again by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the Thursday OB, sir.
Always a pleasure to be here.
All right. And then also joining us, subbing in for our weekly guest spot with the Flow Master, we got a return offender, Mr. Kevin Carter, a product manager over there at Cboe, I guess, Southeast. Kevin, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Do you have the official title for your branch of the Cboe? Are you Cboe Southeast?
That would be yes. That would be one of the only one in the rep. There's only a few of us down here. Yeah,
a branch of 2 or 3. Yeah, it still counts at the end of the day. I like christening Cboe branch. I've already christened the New York office Cboe East, so you would of course be Cboe Southeast. All right, with the team assembled, we are diving right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where we do just that. We break down what the heck is trading out there. And it was a weird start to the session. We started off a little spooked, a little red, a little mixed. And then as the day has progressed, a rare moment of Powell talking seemingly to boost the market. Usually when Powell talks, it spooks people. Also got some M&A activity out there. Dick's taking over Foot Locker, whatever the case may be. Right now, more buyers than sellers in the major indexes. S&P and Dow both up almost 0.5%, about 0.44% exactly for both of them. The NASDAQ up about 0.2%. And VIX cash was hanging out around the 18.5 level, pretty close right when we kicked off the show. It has ticked down to about an 18.25 now, puts it down a little over half a point from where it was this time on our last show on Monday. Of course, if you know, you've been watching, you listen to this show, of course you know. You know, VIX has had an interesting run so far this week, getting crushed down into a 17 handle. 17.75 was actually 17.65 was our low in VIX cash. Getting a little bit firmer today. VVIX, interestingly enough, the vol of vol, also firming up. It was in the 80s, now back up to a 97, up 9 points from where it was on the show on Monday. So that's always an interesting sign. You should maybe start paying attention. If you weren't paying attention already, if you were just, okay, we're done, it's all behind us now, trade war over, on to bigger and better things, you might be right. But it does seem like the vol of vol, and some other metrics are pricing in maybe a little bit of some warning signals out there. You should certainly be cautious. Listen to our Futures Rundown show yesterday with Carly Garner. She was certainly expressing some interesting notes of caution out there in the broad equity indexes out there. So interesting times out there. Definitely maybe a time, certainly when vol of vol is threatening 100, you definitely need to be sitting up and paying attention. Let's kick things off. Let's go out to the land of St. Charles first. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what's catching your eye in what's turning out to be yet another Uncle Mike type of day?
Yeah, it's that easy. We just need to have a quick sell-off and then people buy again. It's just that simple, isn't it?
Well, you know, you put out your email to the Facebook cabal. You say, oh, buy again, and that's all it takes.
Yeah, and I called Uncle Don in Washington, D.C. and told him to tell people to buy too. So that was
the guy you blew off for an autograph.
Yeah, we've made amends, I guess. So I told him to just bump the market up for me, and then maybe I'll consider giving him an autograph. So
very kind of you, sir.
Anyway, with that, the president is going on his deal-making tour throughout the Middle East. He just got out of Saudi Arabia. I guess he's going to the United Arab Emirates as his next stop, and curious to see how this will affect markets. One thing that is for sure is that we are positive on the year again, and S&P closed last year at 58.81. Right now, we are back to, just looking at it go in real time right now, we're at 59.15. So we are actually positive almost a full percent on the year. And considering we were down very significantly, that's quite the ride, to say the least. So looking at that, the other thing today that I think is kind of interesting is that we're getting some buyers in the 10-year note. And the fact that we have that, I guess it's kind of exciting from the standpoint that it's difficult. There's going to be people that are on the fence if you can get 5% in a money market or in some way, shape, or form. But if bonds increase significantly and interest rates go down, then that's going to get more people off the fence. And in order for that to happen, what we're going to need is for buyers to come in bonds to begin with. Now, a couple of things that I'm watching, excuse me, a couple of things with which I'm watching that we're getting the rallies in or that we're getting the positive news on today. Netflix continues to just be on a tear lately. Netflix is up over 2% on the day, knocking on the door at 1,200. So that's something that's been moving up quite a bit. In terms of the traditional stocks that have been pushing up this market, Apple is flat on the day. So we're not really getting a lot. It's down slightly on the day. I shouldn't say it's flat on the day, but it is down slightly on the day. We are getting some movement, not so a little bit of movement in the technology sector, just looking at XLK. But primarily, this seems to be a rally that we're getting movement in more of the traditional style stocks or more of the boring stocks. I got Waste Management up almost 2%. I have Chubb Insurance up 2.5% on the day. And so looking at it, we're not seeing the major moves from Nvidia. Nvidia is only up 0.5% on the day. So not seeing that. Nvidia has taken the lead in our poll between Nvidia and Palantir. Nvidia at 136, Palantir at 128 right now. And so I think the key to this is, Mark, everybody listens to the option block and you essentially create a Las Vegas gambling system for Nvidia and Palantir. And just with the excitement that you created with the poll that you put out. So that's what I'm seeing today.
That's our job at the end of the day. We're here to create excitement. And you're right, it has been fun to watch this foot race between Nvidia and Palantir ever since we broke them both down here on the show. All right, Kevin, same question for you, sir. What is catching your eye in these very tumultuous markets? And we haven't talked to you in a while on the show. What are your thoughts also going back a couple of weeks at this now nigh on historic run to the upside we've seen in the equity markets as well, sir?
Yeah, I was just looking at that, and since like the late April lows, indexes, at least the SPY has gone 15%. Near-term implieds are now off almost 40%. So, as it goes, I mean, assets went up and insurance got cheaper, considerably cheaper. So, I think you got to take what the market gives you these days. It's a pretty volatile market, and when we puke, you got to hold the nose and buy, and when we come up here, I think you got to let some go and look for protection. And they're certainly giving you protection at a much better price these days than they were 2 weeks ago. So I would probably look for that. Maybe 2 or 3 months out. Some hedging protection here. Because we just never know. We never know what's really gonna turn around on a given day these days. So, but some of these names that I'm watching today, I mean, you got CoreWeave. They came out last night, and that stock has rallied quite well throughout the day. And if you remember, that wasn't a very loved IPO not too long ago, just based on their model of renting old data centers. But nonetheless, it's making new highs today with calls trading aggressively. Cisco, those earnings were pretty good. That stock's actually looking to break out. I can't believe I'm talking about Cisco, but those calls are active. The Dick's Foot Locker, interesting. And as it always goes, if we look yesterday, somebody got lucky, and a couple thousand June 15s went up that I saw at 70 cents. 15,000 Jan 10 puts were sold at $1.15, which they didn't even wait. They're covering them today for about a dime. So buying them all back today, just in and out. And then Tesla continues to break out. And again, that's a market leader here. So I'm watching Tesla at all times. So those are kind of the names that I have on my hit list here.
An interesting hit list out there today. And you're right. Some people having some fortunate timing out there in Foot Locker. Maybe we'll get to that in a little bit here on the show. But let's get to some of the numbers for April. And I touched on these in a lot of my conversations down there at OIC last week, listeners. So check those out. I know a lot of you pro members already have. But I haven't officially broken them down really on the show. So let's do that now. We always like to crunch the data for the market out here in OCC, and it's hard not to do it for April. It was the mother of all outliers out there. Overall options volume up nearly 25% year over year, listeners. Yes, you heard that right. 24.3% to be precise. The index options, the area everyone's so focused on these days with 0 DTE, actually up the smallest percentage number, 11.5%. Still obviously a good month, but maybe some reasons for that. Maybe we'll get to that in a little bit. And then the equity options, single name equity options, 23.2%. And then the ETF options, a banger, up 28.8%. The only real dark side on the month was the futures at OCC, which we all know is mostly is VIX futures that OCC clears. They were down nearly 5%, 4.7%. So kind of a strange outlier there as well. You'd think a month like April, you'd catch a volume bid for VIX futures, but c'est la vie. No one can look askance at a nearly 25% increase year over year. That's why there were so many smiling faces down at OIC last week, Kevin. Kevin, I'm not sure if you hit the conference last week, but it was an interesting time. A lot of smiling faces, no small part due to this banger of a number. What are your thoughts on just yet another just absolute slobber knocker in April in the options market, sir?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not surprised. I mean, these are the kind of markets that bring out, a lot more traders. There's a lot of moving parts out there these days. I mean, this is prime time for the options market, if you ask me.
Now, I saw some of this, and I'm curious if you think this is the case as well, Kevin. Obviously, the index options were up strong, but not anywhere near percentage-wise as much as the others. Talking to some of the brokers out there, we saw some periods there in April where things got a little bit maybe too spicy. I like to refer to those as the take your ball and go home markets, where we're just whipsawing 100, 150 handles intraday in the SPX. In that environment, it's kind of hard to do a lot of your traditional premium harvesting strategies a lot of people like to do in the SPX. Maybe they sell one standard deviation out of the money iron condors or whatever the heck your premium harvesting strategy of choice is. There's a lot of that in the S, and it's kind of hard to do that when you're whipsawing multiple standard deviations within the span of a few hours. So it seems like that hit some volume. Would you agree, Kevin? Do you think that's why the index options still up strong, but perhaps not up more, sir? Some of those people just took their ball and went home.
It's certainly a good idea. I would imagine that more people like to sell premium, especially in the index. And right now, that is a very dangerous idea. Even with levels that, we rally and we come off, selling vol would have worked, but you're getting such huge moves that it's painful. So you got to be very careful about where you're trying to harvest this premium, because with 3 to 5% moves that are happening intraday, I mean it's pretty wild. So I don't even know. I mean, right now it's almost a long gamma kind of market. You got to look for those profiles, I think, and that's hard for me to say, right? Because I like to sell premium, but there's a time and a place, and I just don't think we're there yet where you can feel comfortable. I mean, you got to pick your spots, but this is not a set it and forget it, sell premium kind of market.
Yeah, it's kind of rough to blast away, even if you're doing, let's say, one standard deviation out of the money iron condors, when those days you could hit all 4 legs. Not many days you could say that when you're going to tickle all of them. So that's maybe a time you keep your powder dry a little bit. So interesting stuff out there. Which way are you leaning right now in the 0-day contracts, listeners? First off, are you back in them? Seems like the numbers are pretty robust. So it seems like the answer is yes. We'll get to some of the more volume breakdown in a second. And then also, what are you up to out there? Are you back to the old premium harvesting? You feel comfortable? Or as Kevin puts it, are you leaning a little bit more long gamma right now? Let's find out as we get on into the rest of the options market right now. Let's kick it off in VIX as we are wont to do. VIX, not quite the banger out of the gate that it has been, certainly that it was on the Monday show. Monday, we were well north of 1 million contracts at that point in the show. Of course, Monday, obviously a bit of an aberration. You don't see a lot of 3+% rallies in the SPX out of the gate like we did on Monday, so that wasn't too surprising. The ADV come in pretty aggressively, 766, so we're back to about 750,000 contracts, which I guess in a normal year, if you look at the calendar right now, late spring heading into summer, it starts to be that time. I'm not going to say the sell in May adage, but it starts to be that time where we see volume taper off. That said, these are anything but normal markets right now. So 766 might seem kind of light, and we're already at 415, so already more than halfway there today out there. If you're wondering what the big dog is out there in VIX today, it's 31,000 of the AUG 25s, followed by number 2, about 30,000 of the AUG 17 puts. So maybe we got some risk reversal action out there. Number 3, 23,000 of the AUG 20s. Number 4, about 12,000 of the June doubles. There we go. There's the fun paper we all know and love. And number 5, about 11,000 as well of the June 60s. I hope that's a June double 60 vertical. I'll have to dig in a little bit later. That just warms the cockles of my heart to think someone really wants a $5 out of the money vertical in June at the 55 strike. I hope that's the case. A SPY, also a banger out there today, listeners. 6.25 million contracts on the tape. The ADV almost 10 million, 9.96. You're going to see a trend on all these ADVs. They have come in a little bit over the last few weeks. Again, not surprising. Some of those levels we were at were pretty difficult to sustain over the long term. The S, same deal, 2.1 million right now. That's pretty robust, especially when you see that the ADV is 3.42 million. So coming down a little bit there as well. Let's run our old test because we were just talking about 0-day SPX paper. Let's see what's going on out there today in 0-day land. No Flowmaster on the show today, so let's follow up the old Flowmaster machine in his honor. Let's see what it tells us of the top 20 most active in the SPX. And it looks like, once again, listeners, we are 20 for 20 in the SPX right now. So it seems like at least today, folks are not skittish about trading and slinging some 0-day. The big dog right now, the 5,900. Man, it's crazy to think we're back at 5,900, but we are. 5,900s, 55, almost 56,000 of those bad boys going up today. Interesting stuff. I'm looking for some funky strikes. How about the 58 half puts? There we go. 58 half puts have traded 35,000 times. The way this market is, we could be there in an hour. 75 handles in the S&P, that's nothing. That's nothing anymore. So yeah, wild times out there today. In the S, 2.1 million contracts on the tape. Small caps, are they a banger today? The answer, looks decent. I mean, you see the ADV has come in a little bit. It looks a little better. 650 on the tape right now. May not sound like a lot, and it's not, but it's also pretty much halfway to the newly lowered ADV. The ADV out there now down to about 1.37 million. So it seems right about on track out there in the small caps. And the Qs, back to the, dare I say it, almost their normal volume range after some truly banger sessions out there. 2.55 million contracts on the tape. We used to, in the normal times, the pre-madness times, just let's say last year, would expect it to be around 2.25 million this time of the show. So 2.5 million, 2.55 million. That's right about in that ballpark. The ADV, 4.38 million. So that has come in a little bit there on the ADV side as well. But the Qs, as you know, has been leading the dance for a while. In fact, the Qs micro contract is the only thing that seems to be able to unseat the 10-year note on our futures rundown show for the top most active position every week. So it's kind of a battle between those two these days, which is kind of interesting. Obviously an unfair battle because the micro, much smaller contract, but still interesting to see the NASDAQ getting a lot of attention, a lot of love out there right now. Are the single names getting a lot of love right now? You know what? The answer is a resounding yes. I would call this much more than respectable out there right now. In fact, it cost you 379,000 contracts to break into the top 10. We haven't seen it that frothy out there in a while. We've been languishing, 260 in that range for a while. I consider 250,000 to be the bare minimum baseline of a respectable day. So north of 350, you're starting to get into banger territory. We're not quite, 425, 450 either, but this is much more than respectable out here. Nearly 380, 379 is what it cost you to break into the top 10 today. That gets us to our old pal Baba going back out to China. Apparently the China trade is off again, listeners. 123.16 is where Baba's trading right now, off nearly 11 handles or a little over 8%. They are shellacking the Baba out there, missing your revenue estimates. That's going to do it. Kind of hard for Baba to make their revenue, I would think, given the environment we were just in and the environment we have going forward. But still, come in for Baba, number 10 today, 379. Number 9, good old AMDA, 400,000 exactly for AMD, 116 and a third, off about $1 and a third, or about close to 1.5% out there. So not the wildest of days. It has a little bit more of a range though. The high was 117 and a half. The low was 114.40. So 310 range, hanging out towards the middle of it right now. AMD number 9, 400K on the tape. Number 8, the monster. Is it getting larger, more monstrous, or less monstrous? Less scary today. The answer is the latter, listeners. Less scary, 405.88, off about 1070 or so out there, about 2.5%. Good for number 8 today, 413. Take a gander, take a listen over at our Crypto Rundown program from Monday. If you want to hear our buddy Mr. Bill's strategy for selling some premium in, MSTR, and then using it to fund some of his other endeavors out there. Number 8, the monster, 413 on the tape. Number 7, SMCI. This was a hot one. I know a lot of our pro members were getting in and out and selling some puts in this name not too long ago. Number 7 is SMCI. 552,000 contracts on the tape. So only at number 7, we're already north of 500,000. So it's a pretty hot day out there, listeners. 44.68 is where SMCI is hanging out right now, off about 32 cents or almost 0.75%. It's at a range of 45.38 on the upside, 41.41 on the downside. So nearly a $4 range for SMCI today. Number 7, 552. Number 6, Uncle Mike was just talking about him. The fruit company, 212.12, off 21 cents, or mere fraction of a percent, listeners. It's had a range of 209.54 to the downside, 212.96 to the upside. Coming in at number 6 today, 555. Seems like the folks in Apple, after they hammered it for peeling back its buybacks, just have been rallying of late, taking a little bit of a breather right now. Number 5, the one that appears to be leading the dance in the Nvidia Palantir battle. It is Palantir, number 5. 582 on the tape, 129.57, off 61 cents today. A range of 130.20 to the upside and 125.74 to the downside. Good for, again, number 5, 582 on the tape. Number 4, to the Amazonians we go, 205.5, off 4 3/4, or about 2.25%. It's at a range of 206.88 to the upside, 202.67 to the downside. Good for number 4, 593 on the tape for the Amazonians. Now, we shot up there pretty quick to about 500,000, then we've been hanging out there. That's kind of interesting. Let's see if we can take another leg up. And the answer is, for number 3, we can. A pretty large leap up to a newcomer in the top 10. We haven't seen this name in the top 10. I can't remember the last time. Maybe another wild earnings period, maybe. But it's UNH, United Health Group, listeners. 982,000 contracts on the tape for this bad boy. So when a random name like this pops into the top 10, either they had a banger or a terrible earnings, or some other corporate action is going on out there. Something else is usually amiss to really drive them into the top 10 like this. And that appears to be the case right now. United Health taking it on the chin, 266.92, off $41.10, or 13.33%. DOJ reportedly sniffing around their Medicare deals out there. So DOJ investigation, usually not a good thing, and that's being felt in the stock out there today. Let's take a quick gander, because we never talk about UNH. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's pretty near dated, close to the money puts. That's dominating the tape. And it's like I've done this before. The big dog today are the puts expiring tomorrow. They gotta get going to make these puts relevant. 47,000 of the 2.5 puts. Remember I said expiring tomorrow, listeners. We are at 267 right now, so they need to continue falling out of bounds. How low did they fall this morning? They got to 248.88 this morning, so they broke through that strike. So someone is probably an unhappy camper right now that they blew a lot of juice probably on these puts. Hopefully they sold them and they got the actual low in the underlying out there. So let's see, what do we trade these for today? I'm sure they had a wild range. Looks like the high might have been 8 1/4. Looks like paper might have bought those. Ooh, that's an ouchie. And the stock was 251.08. I get it. Things falling out of bed. You're feeling the panic, feeling the fear. When we were market makers and stock would fall out of bed, you would always keep some puts in your back pocket. Those were your bullets, and you would wait for that moment. You would hope you'd capture it, the moment when someone just absolutely capitulates and they pay just an absurd vol level, 151 in this case, to hedge themselves for a day, and then you just let all your bullets go. In this case, it only was a 500 lot, but they were hoping to get more. Of course, they were probably low on bullets at that point because people have been buying puts all morning, but yeah, wide range on these puts as you would expect. 8 1/4 seems to be the high. They traded as low as looks like 297. Obviously, they're trading lower than that now, but This is when the wild madness was going on earlier this morning. Were you slinging any UNH out there, listeners? Was that you? Hopefully it wasn't you on these 8 1/4 kind. Hopefully if it was, you sold them for these puts. Yeah, that's going to leave a mark. Number 3, UNH. Number 2, listeners, can you guess? Is it Tesla or is it Nvidia? Take a guess real quick. 3, 2, 1, go. Yep, it's Tesla. 1.81 million on the tape today. 344 3/4, off about $3 in Tesla today. At a range of 346 even to the upside, 334.72. My goodness. $11.20 range out there in a good old Tesla today. That's a wild one. Number 2, 1.81 million. And then the big dog, once again, Nvidia. You know, I take it back. I think I said Palantir was leading that dance, but Nvidia's back up to 136. So Nvidia would be leading that dance right now. 136, pretty much even, up about 65 cents today, or about 0.5%. Good run for Nvidia. 2.25 million contracts on the tape right now. Let's run through some of the other hot earnings action we had going on this week. You know, there were some names popping off on Monday. You'd be forgiven for not knowing that because a lot was going on in the markets on Monday. But we had Fox before the bell, Chegg, Rigetti. We talked about them before. They've been an interesting name on and off again out there, as well as Hertz and a few others on Monday. Tuesday, Honda and Under Armour. Wednesday, we had Cisco, as Kevin was just talking about, Jack in the Box, and Sony. Today, of course, we just talked about Alibaba. Also have Walmart and John Deere and AMAT today. Walmart was before the bell out there as well. I do believe they warned about some potential price increases out there, which people have always said when Walmart can't take the pain anymore and raises prices. Not a great sign out there. So Walmart before the bell, John Deere before the bell today as well. AMAT after the bell today. If you want some more hot earnings action out there, listeners, head on over to the website, theoptionsinsider.com. Click on the Options News and Articles tab to begin your journey to the dark side. Right now, as we kicked off the week, let's see, where were we hanging out in the season? The season, you know, Matt and I have been saying for a while, we said it again down at OIC last week on our live to tape advisors option, another one that I do believe the pro already has or will be getting soon. The rest of you will be getting down the road a little bit. We've been talking for a while about when is the worm going to turn on earnings vol. This might be the season, listeners. Coming into the start of this week, the season was hanging out at 95%. It may sound pretty good, and it is, but when our long-term average is 120%, that's quite a discount. So we'll see if that will keep up. The worst week was actually week 1 right now, 58%. But that was only 34 names, so read into that with a little bit of a grain of salt. But still, interesting stuff. Our first season in the red we've seen in quite some time, over a year, probably coming up on 2 years. So interesting stuff out there on the earnings front. Luckily for you, we break it all down for you on the website completely for free because we like you. But now it's time for us to keep on rolling and get odd because it's time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, this is the time on the show, listeners, where we get weird, we get wild. This is usually where I toss to the flow master, but now Kevin has the dubious honor of jumping into that void. I know you got tagged in, to use the wrestling vernacular, at the last minute, sir. So do you have any flow up your back pocket, sir?
Well, honestly, one that the Flow Master did share was maybe it's on the heels of the Foot Locker, I don't know, but American Eagle, AEO is the symbol. The June 16 calls go up nearly 10,000 times today for about a dime.
All right, let's go out there then. To AEO we go, listeners. He just broke it down for you, the ticker. We haven't talked about AEO in a while. You know the deal, the saga. It's been a struggle for the last couple of years for a lot of these domestic clothiers out there. American Eagle right now unched, fighting its way back to unched, has a range of 1164 to the downside today, 1197 to the upside, hanging out 1192 on the year. you don't need me to tell you it's been a bit of a challenge. Was nearly $25 a year ago, 24.18. That's pretty much the high for the year. They've pretty much done nothing but sell off. They're off pretty much exactly 50% on the year. Again, if you want a ray of sunshine, they bottomed out at 9.44 on April 8th. So they have rallied about $2.50 since then. So there you go. In the last month, they're up 15% just in the last month. So I guess you could wrap your arms around that if you need a ray of sunshine. But Mr. Kevin, give us again the strikes. What did the Flowmaster find out there, and what do you think of them?
Those are the June 16 calls. They, they're well out of the money, 30+% out of the money. It could just be a cheap shot. It does capture earnings. Earnings are May 29th. So, it's not like the Foot Locker trade per se, where they're buying, calls for tomorrow, but, it is something I'd keep on the radar. It's potentially someone building a position here, getting ready ahead of that release. So, definitely one to watch.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm looking at these right now. You're right. A total of nearly 10,000 of these are traded today, listeners. These are the June 16 calls. If you're looking for your cheap flyer of the day, maybe this is your Huckleberry. They traded in blocks of about 1,000 to 1,500 most of the day for about a dime. So as Kevin alluded to, not the most outlandish trade. Now, it is a complete and total lottery ticket. The stock was $11.84 when they started printing, so right around the level that it is right now, actually a little bit, about a dime lower. I don't think they're going to be a dime bid coming out. Maybe they are now. I'll have to go check, but a dime for those listeners. Now, as Kevin pointed out, there is a little bit of a catalyst there. There is earnings coming up, not till the 29th, though, so you got a couple of weeks before you really have to deal with that. That'd be quite the lift on the stock. The 16 strike? I don't know. Producer, this sounds like a fun... Tell you what, let's let our audience decide. All right. June 16s for a dime in American Eagle Outfitters. Traded nearly 10,000 times today. Are you a buyer, or are you just not touching these with a 10-foot pole, or are you sold to you? I'm curious what our audience say. I got a feeling we might have a lot of sellers out there. I get it. It's a cheap flyer, but it just seems like that's such a lift for this stock. This stock has done naught but hemorrhage all year long, with the exception of the last month. Wow. Okay. Hey, if you want a cheap flyer, listeners, if you could also sell those for a dime, I think a lot of people, if they had the stock, wouldn't mind letting some stock go at 16.10 either. So, that's an interesting one. Kevin, you got anything else in your back pocket, sir?
I mean, that's the most interesting trade that came across my desk today. But again, I mean, I'm just kind of watching a lot of these, breakouts occurring. Again, the CoreWeave, Cisco's, these are heavy call buying today. Trying to just find these winners that are following through. So,
well, we got some funky ones on our own here, listener. Let's go out. This sector, it's on again, it's off again, and when it's on, it might be the hottest segment in the game, listeners. We're talking about quantum computing again. If you've been listening to some of our pro content like Options Oddities, especially towards the end of last year, there were some hot moves in quantum, moves that just defied not just logic, but just sanity. There were insane moves out there. Are we back in that realm? Is quantum hot again? Let's find out. Let's go out to D-Wave Quantum Inc., ticker symbol Qubits, QBTS. We have talked about this one before, but it's been a while. Trading $11 exactly today, so off about 6 cents. On their day, it's had a range of $10.60 to the downside and $12.50 to the upside. So a $1.90 range. So this one ain't messing about out there today. On the year, I mean, you know what this chart is. It's madness. A year ago was a $1.29, and it was there all the way till pretty much November. So if you bought it in May of last year, you had a wasted year until November. And then it just shot up to 10.25, fell right back down to $3 in January, rallied again in March to $11, back down to $6 in April, and now we're doing the leg up game again, back up to $11 out here. And what do we spot out here, listeners? Well, to put it mildly, a whole mess of paper. What first caught our eye were the June 11 calls. These are in the weeklies, expiring on the 13th. trading for $1.80. So that's kind of rich. The stock, they were in the money though, so that kind of explains why they were so juicy. The stock was right around $11.50 when these went up. So take 50 cents off the top really for intrinsic value. $1.30 over, still a lot, but in a name that's this hyperbolic, maybe not. It's 125 vol if you're wondering. Trading 5,000 times today, listeners, for $1.80. That was all opening paper. But worth noting, there are no earnings in that. The earnings are on August 7th. But then as we sent our Eye of Sauron back to say, anything else going on in the quantum realm, it came back with a literal boatload of paper, including total on the day as we came into the show, listeners, about almost 26,000 of the 12 calls expiring tomorrow. Again, we broke 12, got up to 12.5 today. So those were in the money. They traded about 25, almost 26,000 times today. All of that was opening. 19,000 of the 12 calls expiring next week, also opening paper there. 12, almost 13,000 of the 12 half calls also expiring tomorrow. Remember, 12 half is the exact apex of the stock that we got to today. So maybe somebody was rolling the bones there as well. And that's not enough. About 10,000 of the 11 half calls. So it is a bonanza out there right now in D-Wave. Looks like we got some analysts talking about it has another 30% to go. There's a short seller out there as well. So all the fun stuff that drives action in these quantum names, and it is driving a lot of flow. Kevin, I'm curious, did you notice these June 11s in quantum? And then in general, did you notice this explosion of paper out here? And I guess the question I have for you, sir, is quantum back? Is it hot again?
Yeah, I'm noticing those today. Yeah, it's the June 13s. It's the June. I mean, it's all these buckets. But yeah, I mean, if you look on the chart, I mean, QB D-Wave, it's really about to rip again to almost all-time highs here. So yeah, this is a very volatile space, and as these, especially with D-Wave, I mean, if this breaks above $12, it's a blue sky breakout. So we don't know where it goes from there. So big level here for this name.
Have you folks been slinging some more quantum out there? I see you're talking a lot about hymns in our chat. That's a hot one. Don't have paper for them today, but we are going to open that door again, listeners. Open that door one more time. We have an open door policy here on the old Odd Block, listeners, and it's back to open door. Our good buddy, the Viceroy. If only he was here right now to wave his finger at this name and say, if you are trading options on this name, you are a fool. But that's where we are, listeners. Open Door Technologies. We've talked about this one not that long ago. It's a hard time finding that flow. Go figure, searching for open in our litany of notes. Kind of hard to do when most of the trades we profile are opening, listeners. We need to find a better way to search for ticker symbol open. But I know we talked about this not too long ago. But Open Door Technologies right now, 72 cents. So off a couple of cents. Today's not the big day. On the year, though, it's been a banger year to the downside. It was $2.50 a year ago. So they're off 71%. Not looking great for the old Open Door. But somebody, Kevin, looks like somebody is holding out hope. They took a look at the stock. They said 71, 72 cents. That's too rich for my blood. Instead, they said January 2027, 3 half calls. How are they? They got 17 cents at 21. That's a surprising market for such a long-term and such a far out of the money call in Open Door Technologies. And they said, you know what? I will pay 21 cents, good sirs. 5,999 times. So all of this brings a smile to my face. If our buddy the Viceroy was here, he would be frothing at the mouth in anger at this. Mr. Kevin, what are your thoughts on this trade? And then also just the notion of paying roughly a third of the value of the stock, a little less for a call. Again, you're going out a year and a half, so it's longer term, but still at this point, are you just buying the stock for 72 cents, sir?
Yeah, I mean, the stock itself is an option, I think, right? So it's hard to buy I mean, it's almost a Texas hedge. You buy stock, buy options. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be that there's another structure against this. It could be maybe I don't know if it's a convertible bond or a special situation product out there. But yeah, it's hard to read that what they're doing here. I mean, they certainly are giving themselves a lot of time. But I don't know. I mean, that call kind of screams to me that someone's synthetically covering something for an ARB. But I could be wrong.
I would certainly hope there is another side to that, and there probably is. You're probably right. It just brought a smile to my face to see that. Whenever you can get the forever call for 72 cents, Kevin, and you go for the limited time, ridiculously out of the money, you need a 5x move in the stock for 21 cents, and that's your choice.
Yeah, I agree. It's odd.
That's why we call this segment the Odd Block, sir. But now it's time for us to keep on rolling into a little bit of the Mail Block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody. Looks like we just got a poll up a few seconds ago about those AEO calls. So we'll see what you folks have to say on those. Speaking of what you have to say on our polls and our questions of the week, we got a couple of spicy ones going right now. We asked you on the Monday show. We saw quite a few of the July 18 puts going up for about $1 in VIX on the Monday show. We asked you, are you a buyer or a seller? And you guys and gals could not make up your mind. This is another poll. We had a couple of back-to-back now where we went out exactly 50% for each, not 49.9 or anything like that. 50% exactly for each. So kind of strange. So you couldn't make up your mind on those July 18 puts. And keeping it in VIX land, we're also asking our audience right now. We said VIX back below 20 on the hopes of a potential détente in the trade war. Is this real or just the calm before the storm? Quite simply, 1 month from Monday, will VIX be back above 20 or below it? Mr. Uncle Mike, we'll start with you, sir. First off, are you surprised that our audience could not make up their mind on those VIX July 18 puts for $1? I guess that's what makes a market. And then also, what are you feeling about VIX in a month's time, roughly, above or below 20?
I mean, I'm not surprised because that's kind of how I'm feeling right now. I'm not really sure. I would say if I had a gun to my head in a month, I think we're going to be above 20, but I don't necessarily think the market's going to be lower in that there's just, once the uncertainty is done with this administration, once again, not trying to be political, but as we've said before, Donald Trump is not a single-digit VIX president. Once uncertainty becomes more certain, then the one thing that you can be certain of is that there's going to be more uncertainty. So I would say that we're going to be above 20 in a month, but I am not certain.
Kevin, same question for you. Are you surprised that our audience could not make up their minds on these VIX July 18 puts for $1, 50% going each way? And then also keeping it in VIX, do you think VIX will be above or below 20 in 1 month's time? And which way do you think our audience is going?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Mike there. I'm going to say above 20. I mean, that seemed like a good sell to me that rather than a buy. Yeah, I have a hard time seeing us return to this low VIX regime with all of this going on. And then as you're rolling into July, I mean, you're going to start having, earnings tremors coming out. How are these tariffs really playing out? We still don't really know. I mean, there's just a lot of things that, yeah, it's one thing to say I came home from China and I got a deal, but what's the deal? What does it look like? How are these companies responding? And then on top of that, you're almost at 6,000 in the S&P. So what's your risk reward here? You really don't know, and you're almost back to the highs of the year. So the trade just doesn't set up well to get long here. So I got to go with the VIX higher.
All right, listeners, right now, let's see. I had the results earlier. It was taken off my chart. Here we go. What's going on with our audience? They can't make up their mind again. Maybe something strange with Twitter right now, because this poll is also exactly 50-50. So our audience, either you're just having the most difficult time you've ever had making up your mind in our polls or something else is afoot. Interesting stuff out here right now. Got some interesting thoughts out here. Before we roll out the mail block, this one came in from one of our longtime listeners. I kind of wanted to just read it on the air. This comes from Hawkeye. He's been a long-time listener. I do believe I met him in person at one of the Meatballs events years ago. So he's been a long-time listener of the show. He said, I was saddened to hear about Alex, our good buddy, the Viceroy. He said, I actually sent an image like this to you guys years ago, but I couldn't find it. So I created it again. He said, in honor of the Viceroy, and a few days after May the 4th when he created this, I present this image to you. And he sent us an image of Yoda, listeners. And he said, buy not, sell or sell not. There is no buy. Alex the Viceroy Jacobs. I think he's obviously referring to options on cheap stocks like we were just talking about. But that also is a direct quote from our good buddy, Mr. Don Schlesinger, when it comes to trading options at all. He's buy not, it's sell or sell not on those. But thank you for that, Mr. Hawkeye. You're right. Our good buddy, Alex, I know he would get a chuckle out of that one as we keep on rolling right on into Around the Block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, let's go around the block and see what everyone's keeping an eye on. As we come into the end of the show, S&P up slightly more, up about 0.53%, Dow up about 0.48%, NASDAQ up 0.29%, and VIX still hanging out at about 18.25. So roughly pretty much where we were at the start of the show. Mr. Kevin, we'll start with you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on through the weekend until our shows next week?
Well, next week you got a Weibo reporting for their first report since they went public. So keeping an eye on that. That's been, kind of a lot talked about stock. So definitely watching that report coming out next week. And then also just kind of keeping an eye on some of these market leaders, the Teslas the MicroStrategies, the Nvidias, watching these leaders and seeing if they're going to take us to the next leg higher. So that's kind of what my focus is.
Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on till the Monday show?
I mean, in addition to any headlines that could potentially be good or bad for our market, continuing to watch bonds. I think that we're going to need to get buyers in bonds to lower the interest rates because I don't think the Fed's going to do it anytime soon. And I think that's going to be a key indicator of if we can start making new all-time highs again. So continuing to watch bonds.
All right, and that music means no more watching on this show, listeners. Even though I am watching this poll, looks like right now 100% of you in the early voting want to get your hands on those June 16 AEO calls for a dime. Agree, disagree? It's a flash poll that will be running through the end of the day, so you folks on the podcast can play along as well. Make your vote heard, or I should say make your voice heard out there. And your vote, why not? Or at Chicago, vote early, vote often, why not? But yeah, you folks so far liking those AEO June 16s for a dime. Cheap flyer, I get it. If you like the lottery ticket, that could be your Huckleberry. Kevin, good job filling in for the Flowmaster on the Thursday show, sir. And if folks want to check out what you and the Flowmaster and the rest of the crew at Cboe have cooking, where should they go? What should they do?
Please go to Cboe.com and then check out the Data Vantage section. That is where you'll find all of our, execution, analytics, all your option needs will be right there. So please go to Cboe.com, Data Vantage.
There you go, Cboe.com/DataVantage, or when the Flowmaster's here, he always likes to plug Cboe.com/RMA, so we can hit either one of those, listeners. They'll get you to the goodies if you want to do a little bit of Eye of Sauron fun, maybe all these top 20 most actives we're always doing on the show, and a lot of the other data we crunch on this show every week coming at you, courtesy of All Things Trade Alert, so make sure you're kicking the tires and lighting the fires over there. I've been doing this for a long time. I've yet to see the analytics platform that is its equal, listeners, so check it out, Cboe.com/RMA, to begin your journey to the dark side. And I've never seen Uncle Mike's equal at eating a Skippy's Gyro or lemonade. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, if they want to reach out to you, where should they go? What should they do?
Go to stcharleswealth.com. Would love to have an appointment and talk with any of our listeners if you're looking for a financial advisor in the option space. stcharleswealth.com.
There you go. Check them out, stcharleswealth.com. That's going to do it for us on the OB today, but not going to do it for the network. I'll be back in a little bit with episode 450 of TWIFO, a show so big it couldn't contain just one guest. We had to bring on two. So I'll be joined by our good buddy Dan the Man Gramza, as well as the creator of a lot of the platforms we use over there on TWIFO, Mr. Nick Howard, creator of Quick Strike. So should be a good time. Stay tuned for that. If you're in the live, we'll pump some fun stuff in. Be back in a little bit with those two. Otherwise, we're back again tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, to talk all things Vol. Should be another banger, as it always is. And then we come back one final time for the week, exclusively for you cool kids in the pro, talking weird paper. Maybe some more quantum will make the list. We'll have to find out tomorrow on Options Oddities. Only place for you to find out, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Then we're back again on Monday, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. When it comes to trading volatility, trust Cboe, the creator of the VIX Index, for in-depth and relevant information. Cboe's tools and services gives you up-to-date trade insights, analysis, and positions of VIX options and futures. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/VIX today to learn more. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.